Oh dear friend, today we'll start Hibernate. Why we are using Hibernate? What is importance of Hibernate? What is the architecture of Hibernate? So before starting to Hibernate, please subscribe to this channel and put your comment on the same video. It would be helpful for me to improving our video for you. So thanks. So today topic is Hibernate. So what is Hibernate? Hibernate is Java based middleware designed to complete object relational mapping model. In fact, one of the most complex part of many ORM mechanism writing SQL code. Right? So how to SQL code to be managed through Hibernate. So suppose we have application, another part is having Hibernate. So Hibernate, how to interact with the application and database, and how to fetch and load the data from the backend. So let's begin with the next slide. So next slide here, what is the architecture? So Hibernate provides some features related to ORM mapping. ORM just object relational mapping between classes and database server for retrieving loading data using POJO, plain old Java object as per flow of the structure. So what's saying this structure is saying any application classes, just given the scenario application 1, application 2, application 3, there are the 3 classes. Now how to communicate with the Hibernate? So Hibernate basically it will provide the 2 things for configuration of the database by using JDBC, JNDI and JTA. So this is the mechanism of data source, how to source managed by the Hibernate for creating the session factory, and thereafter will perform the application process. So 2 things, one is by using, if here I write application.property and Hibernate config, means Hibernate underscore cnf.xml file. Here can be put the database configuration, and traditional manner if I am going to use XML base, so here can be utilized all this POJO clause mapping in the Hibernate configuration files by using HBM extension, or can be used to persistent logics, persistent APIs. Here can put the entity, table name and whatever, just we go with the step by step. So how to database communicate? Here we have taken the source of JDBC, whatever you have preferring. Based on this, we Hibernate will communicate with the database, and the application class map with the Hibernate. So this will sync with the DB and POJO. It can be performed in the whole application once they have managed. Second thing, Hibernate configuration framework. Hibernate framework provides the configuration interface. Using to this interface can be store, retrieve the persistent object and control. First is session object, session factory interface, session interface, session factory interface, configuration and transaction interface. So these are the four, and another one is a query and criteria object. These are the five things, these are the five core interfaces of the Hibernate. By using this, we can perform our application coding process. Okay. So session interface, for what will do? This is the small entity. It will manage the session and communicate with the session factory interface. And how to session factory manage? First will configuration. If we are using XML based configuration, so can we use configuration interface. So means suppose we want to perform 5 to 6 database connect. So in that scenario, can we manage the 5 to 6 Hibernate config.xml, and then can be add into the configuration through the configuration interface, make it the registry and create the session factory, and based on the session factory will create the session object, and session object will perform the query. Query and criteria is a different, transaction is different thing. If transaction will follow the process of ACID concept. So if we are applying session begin for the transaction process, once it is performed, then session can be coming. So that cases can be utilized to set transaction interface. Query and criteria, if we want to traditional query by using the POJO class, it can be utilized by using query. And criteria object is different thing. Criteria object is a perform by using some restriction. It is also make it the query and return the output, and that output can be performed in the code. So these are the five things. Hibernate configuration architecture. How to perform. So session factory allow to session object loading the application object as a figure. So Hibernate session factory configuration, query, transaction, session factory and session. So this will perform. If you go through this three partition, once database, how to manage the database by using JDBC, JNDI, whatever you preferring first, and session, how to manage. First will configuration and create the session factory, and then create the session, and session once will perform, so we can perform the transaction and query, and it would be communicate to the POJO class. So this is the architecture of the Hibernate. Hibernate callback process. Callback, what is the callback? Callback, when Hibernate process are persisting or loading an object, it will provide support to be one certain event you can respond appropriately. Public boolean on save, it is called before object is saved to the database. Public boolean on update, it is called before object is update. On delete, public boolean is called before object is deleted. Public boolean on load, so called after the object is loaded from the database. So these are the methods, primary method for performing to the POJO classes. Once we create the session, and session will perform by using this method, right? And criteria, generator element. What is generator? Basically, if we want to create unique element a unique ID in the database, so we can generate by using the 9 way. One is incremental in the scenario, one is created, next would be 2, 3, 4, 5. But our application is working on multi-threaded environment, so the incremental idea is going to fail. So in that scenario, we'll go with the identity and sequence for the database, Oracle database, unique ID generation, and identity is it is a unique, create the unique ID in the MySQL, MS SQL. So this is the better idea comparison to the incremental, because of once they hit into the database, so data will decide which each ID generated, what is not generated, based on this will generate. Helio is a different kind of unique ID, and sequence Helio, it is also some used to numeric and alphanumeric ID generated into the database if we are using it. UUIDX hexadecimal ID if you want to generate in the database. So UID, native, assigned means user defined ID if we want to utilize, so can be used to assigned operator. So ID generator class strategy, lot of things can be applied to generating to the this ID. So what is the importance of the Hibernate? So Hibernate importance, if go through this PDF, so our conclusion is going that if we are using Hibernate, so Hibernate is easy, it is developer can independently work by using those techniques, means they have table. If Hibernate, if not generated table through these programs, we can generate the table into the database. One session factory will connect with the database, right? So but bad idea is that if our database frequently hitting to our database, so database performance will be going on impact. So what we will do that? So their side we can use the caching mechanism in the sense of 2 and 3 ways. First caching mechanism is session object. This is the short life object, so it will always be on the caching mechanism. Second level caching, whenever we want to avoid the hit the database, so here we'll apply the second level caching. So second level caching can be utilized the Hazel cost, and third level caching can be utilized the system level caching. So that is hardware side can be manage the session caching mechanism, EH cache, storage cache, whatever we want to follow it. So this is the basic idea of the Hibernate. So we have explained about that. Once we will go to the next topic, we will come with the example and I will show you how to make it Hibernate program by using all these mechanism, means transaction, how to utilize transaction, how to utilize query, how to utilize criteria, how to utilize session, factory, configuration, and session object. So we will show the live program after this video. Thank you so much for supporting us